It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this week, Reverend Dick Dingus. Dick is a very special person. I've known Dick since before he came to this church, through my work and his work as a minister. Dick did a talk here several months ago and told his story, and I think it's well worth listening to again on YouTube. It's fabulous. Dick has served as a pastor most of his life. He has been head of the local IONS group. I can remember when you did classes on the Conversations with God, one of my favorite subjects. I thought that was wonderful. He's currently serving with Heartland Hospice as a chaplain, helping not only people transitioning over, but also helping their families overcoming their pain and grief that they're going through. Dick came to our church, very fortunate to us as his pathways changed, and he came to us with wisdom, with knowledge, and a great love. He has served as a pastor. He's been on our board of directors and served as president. At our last pastoral council meeting, we were discussing altars, and Dick said something that I thought was very touching and very amazing and spoke of him. We talked about who within our group had altars, and several of us do have altars. And Dick simply said, "My altar is my garden." And I think that speaks volume about him and the big heart and the love he has for life, for nature, and for everyone here. I'd like to welcome Dick Dingus up to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you all for being here today. Howard Storm had a near-death experience in 1985. He was the chairman of the art department at Northern Kentucky University and had taken his students to Paris to see original works of art. He was also an atheist. And while in Paris, he suffered a perforation of his stomach, and his stomach acid leaked into his abdomen, causing great pain. He was digesting himself. He went to the hospital, but it was a holiday, and no doctor was available, and so he waited in his bed in great agony until he popped out of his body and stood next to his bed. And all of a sudden, he felt no pain. He felt great. He couldn't remember when he felt any better. And he looked back at his physical body in the bed, and he looked at his spiritual body standing there, and he had to rethink, what is existence? What is life? When he looked at himself, he saw a translucent body that glowed. Then he heard voices at the door of the hospital room, and there were grotesque little figures who invited him to follow them. He accepted and followed them down a dark path. Suddenly they turned on him and began to devour him. He wanted to pray and ask God, if there is a God, for help. The only prayer he could remember was what his grandmother used to say, "Now I lay me down to sleep." But he said it. And Jesus came to him and rescued him and healed him and restored him. During his visit with Jesus, they had this conversation. And we start out with these words of Howard Storm. Howard Storm is being portrayed by Lloyd Kramer, and Jesus is being portrayed by Robert Kaczynski.
When Jesus told me that I had to come back to the world, and I was trying to convince him not to send me back, I asked him, what would I do if I came back? Before he had a chance to answer, I said, "You know, I am an artist, and I would like to build you a shrine. I would make this shrine so big and beautiful and bizarre that people would come from all over the world out of curiosity to see what it was about. And what they would find was it was about you. And that would make them think about you. That's what I would like to do if I came back.
I'd rather you didn't do that.
What? People building shrines to you forever. There's lots of shrines. Why can't I build a shrine? I would like to build a shrine.
Well, you've spent so much of your life hiding out in the studio, avoiding people. I would prefer it if you didn't avoid people by building this big shrine. I don't really care about shrines. People like to build shrines. I understand that. It makes them feel good. But we don't have any use for them whatsoever. Neither me nor my Father, God. So I guess what you have to do, if it amuses you, build your shrine. I guess that's what you want to do. But don't do it for me. Don't deceive yourself into thinking it's something I want, because it's not.
Okay, well, you shot down my idea. What's your idea?
Love the person you're with.
Okay, great. I'll do that, no problem. But what do you want me to do?
I just told you. I want you to love the person you're with.
Yeah, but after I do that, what do you want me to really do?
Now, that is what I want you to do. Love the person you're with.
Well, that's simple enough. That's easy. I can do that.
Oh, really? Well, that's what I want you to do. That's enough.
How is that enough?
Well, if you do that, you will change the world.
Oh, you want me to change the world?
Exactly. That's why I put you in the world in the first place. To change the world.
Well, you know, there have been a lot of people who have tried to change the world, and that usually turns out really pretty badly. I can think of examples like Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. All of them wanted to change the world, and they made it worse. If I go back and try to change the world, why isn't it possible that I could make a lot of terrible mistakes and make the world a worse place?
The way I want you to change the world is by loving the person you're with.
Wait a minute. That's a contradiction. You want me to change the world, but you just want me to love the person I'm with.
Yes, that's the plan. That's the big plan. If you love the person you're with, then that person will go out and love the person they're with, and those people will go out and love the people they're with, and it will be like a big chain reaction. And love will conquer the world, and everyone will love one another. That's God's big plan.
It's not going to work.
Why won't it work?
I love the person I'm with. She walks across the street and gets run over by a truck. Then everyone gets angry and upset.
Yeah, that happens. But it's really God's plan. And nothing is going to stop it. It's going to happen.
Well, even if you had 1 million people, I don't think it's going to happen.
There are more than 1 million people in the plan.
Well, from what I know of this world, you don't have enough.
Actually, we have all the angels everywhere. They're all in the plan. And there are lots of them. There are more angels than there are people in the world. There are millions of people, and there are all the angels. And, of course, there's God, the Father. It's inevitable. The plan is going to happen.
Well, if that's your plan, I'll do it. But I just don't really see much hope for it.
You don't know enough to see how it's going to happen.
So, my solution to everything is to love one another. And when I read the Bible and found out that that was written in the Bible as Jesus' commandment, this is my commandment, that you love one another. That's the program. I've tried to be a part of that program. So I personally have no big plan other than to be loving. The only fly in the ointment was that I thought it was going to be easy. It turns out to be the hardest thing I've ever done. It sounds so simple, but it's really difficult. It's easy for me to love my mother because she was a really nice woman and very loving woman. It's not hard to love someone who is really good and really loving. But what do you do with someone who is difficult or really nasty? Those are hard people to love. And what does it mean to love someone? Sometimes to love someone means you need to incarcerate them. And that's not a lot of fun. Sometimes loving someone means you have to put as much distance between them and you as possible and tell them never to call you. And that's not a lot of fun. Loving people sounds so simple, but it's very difficult.
Amen.
This dialogue between Jesus and Howard Storm is chapter 1 in this book called Love the Person You're With by David Sunfellow, published just this year. In the book, he gives further references to go online to find out about the authors of the stories in the book and to connect with the videos so you could see them on YouTube. This experience changed Howard Storm's life. He became a minister in the United Church of Christ, and later he lived with natives in South America. The part of his experience I want to focus upon is the plan. This is the most important message for humankind. Let me explain and summarize it. God is love. We are the children of God. We can extend love by choosing to love the person we are with. When we choose, we become energized and serve as conduits or channels through which others become energized. Love energy is passed on, and the ripple effect on and on, beyond, so that everyone on earth will be incorporated into the oneness of love and peace. It's inevitable. That's the plan. Now, Howard Storm's experience and statement of the plan in his dialogue with Jesus could stand alone as an authoritative expression of God's will for us. But it's only one example of the plan which has been communicated in our day. Jesus communicated the same plan to Helen Schuckman in A Course in Miracles. A miracle is an act of kindness or love that builds a bridge between two people. The ripple effect will multiply exponentially to include all of humankind to achieve a return to oneness in God. It's inevitable. It's a matter of time, all out of A Course in Miracles. Another example is found in this book called New Teachings for an Awakening Humanity by the Christ. And this is from our library upstairs. It was published in 1986, the same year in which Howard Storm's near-death experience book was published, My Descent into Death. In this book, New Teachings, Jesus addresses everyone on earth to describe our condition, the condition of our planet, and the course of our spiritual evolution. He calls for the creation of a love corps to open the way for the golden age. He clarifies that we have his past message right. It's love and compassion. But he further teaches that we were made to love God and others. He says that we are the caretakers of the earth, and that as we find peace within and give love, we will make earth a model of love and beauty in the universe. He says, your only logical behavior today is to pray and meditate to receive God's communication, to apply it in life, and then to join with others on the planet like yourself to practice peace. Jesus spoke of meditating to receive God's communication. He also told of the value of meditating together in a group. Receiving God's communication through meditation is the same message as in A Course in Miracles. In A Course in Miracles, we are to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance as we face every decision. The message is clear. There is hope for earth and humankind. Our part is to love the person we are with. As a hospice chaplain, that is my job description. I am to relate in a positive way to satisfy needs and make people happy. Patients, their families, caregivers, and the people I meet going in and coming out. Company policy at Heartland Hospice is to exchange positively with 3 people while going into a facility and 3 more people while leaving. I follow this policy in my work, and it often overflows into my personal life. For example, I was entering the hospital to visit my wife recently, and I was reading this book, in the process of reading it. And so I asked the receptionist, would you like to hear a story? And she was up for it. I asked a nurse later, would you like to hear a story? She said, okay. So I read the same story to both of them that you heard this morning, the dialogue, and they were really interested in it. They were blessed by it. I made a connection. I built a bridge. There are many ways to share positive energy. Just smile and say hello. Ask people their name and use it. Calling a person by name communicates that that person is valuable to you, valuable enough for you to remember their name. Thank people. Thank them for what they do. That lets them know that what they do is valuable to you. Say it with a smile. I saw the maintenance man in the hospital moving his mop, and it was a dust mop, and I said, you keep a clean floor. And he beamed. It was just what he does, but somebody recognized him for that. In the garage, I saw a man with a wet mop and a bucket. I said, did you ever see the movie Bruce Almighty? And he had seen it, and he recognized that I was referring to the time that Bruce met God, and God was mopping the floor with a wet mop and a bucket. And so he was beaming because I called that to his attention. I saw a young lady behind the counter at McDonald's in Portsmouth. She had the most beautiful braids in her hair, more beautiful than I've ever seen. And I said, you have the most beautiful braids I have ever seen. She beamed. I said, what is your name? She said, Rhodesia. And I said, thank you, Rhodesia. She was beaming. Little ripples moving outward change the world. Look for opportunities. Set aside judgments. When you come to a stop sign and see someone waiting for a handout, remember, the goal is to extend love. Give something, a smile, a wave, a friendly word. Maria remembers me, and I remember Maria. Love changes people, and the energy of love covers great distances. In the book, What Tom Sawyer Learned from Dying, the author, Sidney Farr, includes this story about the power of love. In the Middle East, a terrorist was driving a truck loaded with explosives toward the designated site. Tom Sawyer, who had special psychic abilities, saw this in his mind. And he got together with others and they prayed for the terrorist. Their prayer was to shower him with love. That was all. Just so that he would know that he is loved. The driver received those prayers, stopped the truck and got out and said to himself, I can't do this. My message today is your invitation to become part of the Love Corps, to become a miracle worker, to love the person you are with, and to do it with a group of same consciousness. We are working together to shorten the time. Thank you.